If you've ever wanted to take a close look at a steam engine, in this video we're going to get up real close to these engines. And if you ever wanted to know the parts of the engine, we're going to go through some of that as well. First, we'll just take a walk around some of these things. Admire the craftsmanship, the engineering. Most of these parts would have been carved out of something like basswood and then metal poured into sand molds. The wooden molds would have been made just a little bit bigger because when the metal cools, it's going to shrink a bit. Look at all these rivets. Instead of welding, they would have pushed a piece of metal through, heated it up, and then created this rivet. You used the technology you got at the time. Looking at these old machines doesn't get old. Look at those enormous leaf springs. A lot more than your typical car, because this is no typical car. Those springs hold a lot of weight. I'm glad some of these old steam engines didn't just get scrapped. Now these things would be worth something, but back then, they would have been scrap. I am so glad somebody held onto these things. And these are all nicely restored. Here's a really odd front end. Pushed them cows off the track. Now let's look at some of the names of the parts of a steam engine. All these different systems wrapped into one engine. I love how they put the names on every part in every system. Valve gear, air reservoir. Now these are just the names, not exactly how every single one of these things works. But it's good to be able to call these things by the right names. Here's a counterweight on the wheels. Nothing like watching one of these things move. You put the water in, you use the coal to get everything hot, you make the steam, and this big old steam engine moves forward. All this stuff before computers or digital, 100% all machine. This would be fun to sit there and work on these engines. There's not many of them that run, but they still run them. And it's a sight to see steam coming out all kinds of places. Now here's a closer up look of all those gauges. Making sure all the pressures are in the right spot at the right time. Valves, knobs, gears, hopefully a pressure release valve somewhere in there. Talk about steampunk, real steampunk here. When we get down to the bottom, that's where the coal goes in and the fire burns hot. Right behind you is where all the coal goes. Shovel it in to keep and maintain that steam.